Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. In this story, Naruto is a one-man team. After graduating from the academy, Naruto starts to reveal his true self. Won't everyone be surprised at what the demon can do? Powerful Naruto. Naruto X Harem. Be sure to check the description for the creator of the great fanfic and don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to this channel. Now let's start the story. Chapter 16. A Troubled Mind. Disclaimer. In case you're wondering, I do still read the real Naruto manga. Well anyway, the time has come. Love it or hate it, the worst scene is here. I won't ask for forgiveness, but I felt it was necessary to have it in the story to justify certain things that people seem to like to do in harem stories, that I won't be doing in mine. There is a large warning with instructions on how to skip the actual scene. After the break there is a very short summary just to give everyone an idea of what happened without getting graphic. For those of you that do choose to read that scene, I warn you now, it is very brutal. Don't read it if you think it may ruin the story for you. This should be the darkest it gets for a long time. As the Jonin talked, their students and the other residents of the house split up into two groups. Ino dragged Hinata, Haku and Kin away while the rest went to the backyard so Harem and Shino could show their training area for the past month to Choji and Shikamaru. Haku and Hinata were a little confused as to what could be so important that they had to use a bedroom to talk, but they were soon put on their guard with the first words that came from Ino's mouth when the door was shut as she looked them dead in the eyes. How many are you willing to share him with? What? I'm not going to beat around the bush here. I want to be with Naruto-kun too, and I'm sure we all know that Kin would bone him if she ever found him vulnerable. The Oto Nin blushed, but didn't deny anything. Also, I'm pretty sure Tenten is infatuated by him. She seems to have a thing for romantic talk. I'm willing to bet there will be others too with his charm and protect all attitude, so I want to know how many you are willing to share with, and don't say none because you are already getting the two in this room whether you like it or not. Don't you think we should talk about this with Naruto-kun? Hinata looked on the verge of tears at Ino's commanding tone. Yeah, I mean he may not want to spread himself out too thin. He is only one guy. Even Haku was looking nervous. I don't care if Naruto-sama accepts me or not. I will be by his side until my debt is repaid, even if it takes my whole life. Kin on the other hand was full of determination as she stared at the two unflinching. Anyo, I don't think you should date him just to pay back a debt. Oh no, I won't date him for my debt. Hinata and Haku breathed a momentary sigh of relief. I'll date him because he's the best guy I've ever met. Or not. The debt is something I would pay off even if I didn't want to date him. Well, there's no denying that, but I mean, we really should get his opinion on this. Down in the yard, Kurenai and Asuma had joined the four genin in looking around the yard as they showed off their small training area, the meditation area that they were forced to relax in if they got too stressed out, in the gardens that Harem liked to check every time she came as the residents changed them frequently. So you got stronger in this little area. Asuma looked around the area wondering just how much they could really train. You wouldn't believe how little space you actually need to train if you know how to use it. Naruto-san taught us that. It was how he was able to get strong without anyone knowing. Shino told him flatly. Even so, how do you practice jutsu, or spar? Asuma-san, Naruto-san only shows us how to use jutsu. It's up to us to practice it here to the point that it becomes dangerous to his property. Then if we want to further practice it we have to do so on our own where we can find a place to do so. Because of the control exercises he made us do, by the time he started teaching us jutsu we pretty much just used the bare minimum to get a reaction from the jutsu, then gradually put in more chakra to get a feel for it. When we would go to practice on our own it only really took just putting more chakra into it to really do anything flashy, so we would only need to do it outside of the estate a couple times. Harem explained. Shino picked up again when she was finished. We only had time to learn a couple jutsu, or in my case a handful of trapping methods. Kurenai looked around but couldn't find Asuma's two students. Asuma-san, where are your genin at? Oh, they probably wandered off to slack off somewhere. The man said as he lit a cigarette. They are in the meditation area, watching clouds. See, Shino knows exactly where they are. Typical of those two though. Asuma-san isn't Shikamaru in the finals. Kurenai quirked her eyebrow. Yes. Shouldn't you be training him then? He prefers his family techniques so I don't really get involved. Kurenai's face soured. Asuma-san, that's just irresponsible. You should be teaching your students. Asuma waved his hands frantically in defense. It's how they wanted to do things. I've taught them a bit. We mostly work on mental skills though, well, except Choji. You better train them properly, Asuma. If you don't and they get hurt, or worse, it's going to come back on you. They know what they're doing, and with Shikamaru around they can pull through most situations. Even though Kurenai prodded him for details, he refused to give any. He simply stated, "You'll find out later." Back upstairs the girls were still in heated discussions, and it seemed like Haku and Hinata were losing. So you see, it's not that we don't respect that you love him, it's just that there really isn't anyone nearly as complete of a package. I mean, if you can think of one I wouldn't be afraid to give them a try, but since I'm a ninja I want someone who I can spend time with as well as train with without the fear of breaking them. What about Shikamaru-san and Choji-san? Shika's too lazy and thinks everything other than watching clouds is too troublesome. All Choji ever does is eat. What about that Hyuga, Neji or Lee? Now you're just insulting me. Who would want to date a guy that has the same attitude as Sasuke and likes to belittle his own family? No offense, Hinata. And if you couldn't tell, I like fashion and green spandex never was and never will be. I'm not vain, but that is going overboard for anyone, and the way Lee goes around shouting about youth and hugging his sensei, I seriously question what team he's playing for. Ino was nearly green from even the thought of going near either of them. Well, at least there must have been some guys you liked in Oto-kin-san. Please. Do you remember my teammates? And what they did to me? All of Oto is like that. We don't even have civilians in Oto and we're not allowed to just go roaming around to towns nearby unless we're on a mission. Plus, we aren't the most loved village since our cage likes to rule by fear. She said the last part a bit quieter than the rest. You don't plan on going back, do you? Ino asked, now concerned. Kin shook her head slowly as they watched her head lower and her shoulders twitch. Telltale signs of crying started to dot the carpet under her. Female instinct took over and she was soon surrounded by the other girls who were trying their best to comfort her as she cried openly for the first time in a long time, something else that was forbidden in Oto. After about 10 minutes they had finally calmed her down enough to where she was red-eyed but content. Haku sighed and moved closer to Hinata once again and they began to whisper amongst themselves while Ino and Kin tried their best, though futilely, to hear what was being said. Another 5 minutes passed with only the sound of the girls' whispers until finally Haku gave a curt nod and Hinata copied her with a little reluctance. Haku turned to the two girls on the floor. Okay, Hinata-chan, and I decided that you two could join us. But you can't hog Naruto-kun. You have to remember, at least for a while, that Hinata loved him the longest and I have loved him longer than you two. We are going to be sharing a person, so we have to be sure not to run him into the ground with demands, so don't expect him to hang out with everyone every day. If we feel that someone is prying too much of Naruto-kun's attention, then we reserve the right to step in. There are of course exceptions, like when someone is on an extended mission or if Naruto-kun needs to do something himself like he's doing now. Ino and Kin nodded in agreement as the talk went on and they laid out ground rules for how they would handle what they labeled their Naruto time. They also went over what would happen if more girls wanted to join in, just in case. What they ended up with was a scroll of rules for the Harem of Uzumaki Naruto, a title that made them all blush and giggle when Ino spouted it out. Once they had all signed the document, declaring that they knew their limitations, they went into some common, girl talk. Kin wasn't exactly used to such a thing, but she tried to join in as much as possible. So how far have you two gotten? Both Hinata and Haku blushed deeply at the comment. Hinata started poking her fingers together. Well, we do share the B-bath a lot, and sometimes we K-kiss and make each other feel good. It was obvious that she struggled a lot with the admission. Ino looked at the girl wide-eyed though. She never would have thought Hinata capable of such a thing. So how big is he? Huh. You shared a bath, right? So you must have seen him, or at least caught a peek. Though if it was too much for Hinata and she regressed into her fainting habit while Kin looked on eagerly. Haku just blushed deeper as she realized what Kin had asked and what Hinata had said were two different things entirely. She wasn't talking about Naruto and her. She was talking about, me and her. Ano's eyes widened more as the realization hit her and a small trickle of blood dripped from her nose. Ino found it hard to talk but managed to get her question out in a mostly understandable way. Why? Haku giggled a little. It was how I convinced her to let me date Naruto-kun too. She pointed over her shoulder at the still unconscious Hinata. Kin grinned devilishly. Show us, she said as she swayed her hips and walked towards the bed. The last thing Ino could remember seeing was Haku and Kin sharing a very heated kiss and some skin starting to show before she rocketed backwards from a full-blown nosebleed and followed Hinata's lead into the blissful darkness. Naruto was tired, sure, but he couldn't just walk around with his parents' scrolls while there were people he didn't completely trust walking about when he planned on sleeping. He was able to put his mother's scroll back in place and stagger his way back up to the office and make sure everything was in place before he slumped into the office chair and unceremoniously fell asleep. He didn't wake up until it was already dark out and there was a soft knock on the door. He jolted awake from the sound and rubbed his eyes before addressing whoever it was. Enter. All four girls walked into the room smiling in a way that made him slightly uneasy. Hello Naruto-kun. We were just wondering if you wanted to go out to eat tonight, since it is around dinner time now. Naruto was still a bit hazy from just waking up, so he settled for yawning and nodding his head at Ino, making all four girls giggle. Yawn are the others. Already left. Haku told him. Since we weren't allowed to show them our more interesting treasures, they just looked around for a bit then went home. I think Asuma was mainly here to watch after his team and see the Yondaim's house. I still can't believe you actually get to live in this place. Ino told him with a little wonder. I mean the house of the Yondaime. It's so cool. One could almost see the stars in her eyes. You mean the Yondaime Hokage? This is Akage's house. Yeah, it is, Kin. Why? I don't know Naruto-kun. I just thought Akage's place would be bigger. Especially one from one of the top 5. Well our Yondaime was a lot more humble than most, I guess. Plus he didn't have a clan, so it didn't really need to be huge like the Hyuga or Uchiha compounds. Luckily for him, those that knew him from school took his little slip up as his infatuation with the former Kage. Those that knew the truth though were able to hide it easily. It was rather obvious that he couldn't let such information get out, and with one of the biggest gossips and an, admittedly, possible enemy Nin in their midst, they couldn't risk that piece of information getting leaked. Still, for someone that, alone, was feared by an entire country, it just seems a bit plain. At least it's decorated well. It looks like it has a woman's touch to it, but he was never married, so I guess he got a little help. Naruto flinched a little inside but remained silent. Well, anyhow. Like I was saying, we want to go out to eat. Think of it as a celebration for you, Kin and Haku passing the prelims. Even though they didn't pass, both Ino and Hinata were all smiles, which still unsettled Naruto a little. And we decided on Ikiraku since you like it there so much and Kin-chan's never been there. They may have missed his slips, but he was more alert now than after he just woke up. Something was up and he knew it, he just didn't know what it was. Oh okay, let me just go shower and change and I'll meet you in the living room. He herded them out of the office before doing just as he said and lead them out the door after he was finished cleaning up. They walked over to the stand with Naruto being silent as the girls chatted away like they were old friends. By the time they actually got to the stand, they had managed to thoroughly confuse Naruto with how well they were getting along. Hey old man, you've got some customers. Naruto yelled out like normal as he entered the stall and they all took seats. They didn't really have to worry about enough empty seats since, also like normal, those that were currently eating decided they were full and left the stand. Hinata and Haku scowled at them a bit, but Ino and Kin, who hadn't been around Naruto enough to know what his life was like, were blissfully unaware for the time being. Oh. Hello Naruto, did you bring your girlfriends along again? You really should find a classier place to go on your dates or they're going to leave you. Toiki's thought trailed off as he turned to see Naruto sitting there with 4 girls flanking him instead of his normal 2 guests of Hinata and Haku. Following the man's gaze, Naruto realized some explanations and introductions were in order. Oh. This is Ino-chan, I'm sure you've met her before if Team 10 ever came here to eat. He saw Toiki nod that he had indeed seen the girl before. And this is Kin-chan. She's from Oto, and in the finals for the Chunin exams like Haku-chan and me. You made it to the finals. Congratulations Naruto. Ayame. Naruto made it to the finals. I told you he would. Hi dad, and I never said that he wouldn't. Ayame scolded her father a bit but put on a smile when she faced the counter. Hey Naruto-kun, I see you found more lovely ladies to follow around. Naruto blushed bright red and tried to correct her, but was beat to it by the girls. That's right Ayame-chan. Haku started. Or Naruto's, Ino followed. Girlfriends. They chorused with beaming smiles causing Naruto to spill backwards off his stool. What? Was all he could manage to get out as he started to get up off the ground. When he finally made it back to his seat amongst the giggling girls and laughing Ayame, he was finally able to get a proper word in. What the heck was that all about? Sorry Naruto-kun. I guess we should have told you before we left the house. Kin-chan and Ino-chan decided to join the sisterhood. Hinata said as she smiled shyly at him. Wah, bu, I don't get a say in this do I? He said as his head hit the counter in defeat. The girls just laughed and patted his back to mock comfort him while Ayame could have sworn she heard her dad say something about, lucky guy. Okay girls, I'm sure you all want to tease your boyfriend mercilessly, but this is still a business, so what can I get for you? Ayame took their orders and made small talk with the group while Toiki cooked their meals. As they ate, no one else attempted to enter the stall with Naruto there, or those that did would come in laughing then see him sitting there and quickly walk away scowling. Kin and Ino were starting to feel a little uncomfortable about it, but since the others seemed to not let it bother them, they tried their best to ignore it. Instead, they concentrated on talking about the events in the forest and during the prelims. They skipped, or only hinted at, a lot of the worst experiences, but Toiki and Ayame still picked up enough to declare their stand Uchiha and Haruno free for as long as they ran it. That made Naruto laugh and thank them with a smile. While the girls finished up, Toiki nudged Naruto and took him to the other end of the counter before whispering to him. I don't know how you did it, and I don't really mind, but I hope you're taking precautions. I don't think it would be a good idea for someone in your shoes to have an accident. He almost punched the boy when all he got was a confused look. Birth control baka. Don't go getting one of those girls knocked up before they even have a chance to live. Take Toiki-san. What do you take me for? I'm not ready for something like that. For Kami-sama's sake were barely teenagers. Naruto was frantic as he waved his arms around, causing the ladies to glance at them accusingly before Toiki grabbed the boy and pulled him down conspiratorially. Okay. Just be quiet. Listen, I don't really care if you do those things. I have been around ninja a long time and I know they tend to start early because of their limited lifespan. Just make sure that if you do go that far that you use some kind of protection. A jutsu, medication, hell, use a rubber like the rest of us, whatever. Just don't ruin a girl's life just so you can feel good, got it? Toiki looked at Naruto in nothing but dead seriousness. Toiki-san, do you really think I would treat a girl with anything but respect? You and Ayame Nekken already beat that into me for life. I don't think I could do anything bad to them without it haunting me for life. Not to mention, now can we please stop talking about this? Besides, I think your Ayame Nekken is going to come over soon if we keep talking in whispers. Just as he finished, there were two whacks as a ladle hit both of them over the head. They turned to see Ayame with her arms crossed, wielding her weapon of choice. And just what are you two over here whispering about? She scowled at them and she tapped her foot. And nothing, Ayame Nekken. Naruto said nervously. Just some man talk is all, Ayame. Oh, I see the girls are finished. I guess that means you're headed out, Naruto. Have a safe trip home. Goodbye. Naruto took the hint and threw some money on the counter before giving his thanks and leaving with the girls. He knew Toiki was in for a long night of questioning, and if he knew his girls, so was he. Naruto-kun, what did Toiki-san want to talk to you about? Hinata said in an uncharacteristically sugary sweet, non-stuttering voice that made Naruto sweat bullets. I don't think that is something I should be saying in the middle of the street. Sure, it was stretching excuses, but it was partially true. He really didn't want to talk about it at all, so in the street counted under the all part. Oh, that's okay, Naruto-kun. My parents' house is right here and they're probably away for the night at a bar, so a quick bit of privacy won't hurt. The girls practically dragged a protesting Naruto into the flower shop and lead him into the attacked house's dining room to sit and talk. For Naruto, this was one of the times he wished he wasn't staring across a table at a group of people. The council, no problem. The Hokage, easy. 4 girlfriends who want to know a secret you don't want them to, yeah right. Now Naruto-kun. We're not in the middle of the street, so what were you two talking about? Haku wasted no time as she began the interrogation. Quote. Naruto-kun, we're going to sit here until you tell us. But it's embarrassing. He whined to them. We're your girlfriends. We're supposed to know the embarrassing things about you. Ino reminded him of what she thought was common sense. And you'll get to know the embarrassing things about us too, eventually. Kin added. Oh come on, it can't be that bad. The girls were getting frustrated and started scowling a bit. Okay, he just wanted to make sure we were being safe. The girls blinked at him once, twice, then started cracking up laughing. What? Now Naruto wasn't only embarrassed but confused as well. Naruto-kun. We as kunoichi have to know how to take precautions. Just in case. Especially the Hyuga, we can make ourselves temporarily infertile in case we're captured. So, you don't have to worry about civilian protections. Hinata was blushing furiously as she explained that they would choose when, and if, they wanted to procreate. It was still embarrassing to have old man Toiki talking to me about it. But he was right. I don't want to end up ruining your lives by doing that. And ending up getting you pregnant. He turned his head away to hide his blush a little, missing their cooing smiles at him. Naruto-sama is so thoughtful. Don't worry Naruto-sama, we know what we want and right now it isn't to be stuck with a kid, so as long as we do our side of the protection first then you don't have anything to worry about. Kin tried to comfort him, but his blush just deepened. Besides, we already agreed that the first one to have a kid would have to clear it with the others first. We have a nice little pact that we all signed to make sure everyone knows their boundaries. Naruto's head whipped around to Ino. You what? We made a pact. You know, an agreement with rules. That way we have an easy way to solve disputes and you don't have to worry about taking on more than you can handle. Oh, and don't worry, it's flexible. Haku only succeeded in making Naruto wish he hadn't said anything in the first place as he visibly paled. And do I get to see this pact? Nope. Girls' eyes only. Sorry Naruto-kun, but you just have to trust us. Haku and the rest beamed smiles at him. Great. So how about we christen this event with a little fun? Ino wagged her eyebrows and everyone blushed, but only Naruto did it out of embarrassment, and something else. No. Come on Naruto-kun. Don't be a party pooper. Haku said as she leaned over the table, making Naruto scoot his chair back away. Please Naruto-kun. Hinata was walking around to him with a deep blush on her face and poking her fingers together. And no. Stay away. To them he looked shy, but internally he was starting to freak out. The looks in their eyes was getting to him. The atmosphere was too similar. His eyes started to dart between them and the room. The table, the metal utensils, the single light beaming down on him. And that look. Come on Naruto-sama. I promise it'll be fun. Kin was crawling predator-like out from under the table and Naruto shot his chair to the wall, shocking them quite a bit. No. Saint stay back. Naruto put his hands in front of him to guard himself and began to hyperventilate. Instantly the girls knew something was wrong. Lust turned to concern as they backed off. When Naruto saw that he lowered his guard just enough to see them, but they could see his eyes were wide with fear, and it shocked them to think that he was afraid of them at all. Naruto-kun. Hinata inched forward slowly until she was close to him. When she reached out and touched him, but he jerked away and Hinata drew her hand back like it was burned. She started to get tears in her eyes. Naruto, please let me near you. She crawled over to him on her knees until she was in front of him. Then gently and very slowly put her hands on his arms and started to lower them. Something in her eyes made him start to relax. Something there told him that he was safe. That she wasn't going to hurt him. Hinata-chan. With a crash he fell over sideways to the floor, passed out. Naruto-kun. The girls screamed in unison. 4 young female ninja waited outside a hospital room as they waited for news on the boy inside. None of them knew what had happened or why, and no one would tell them anything. All they got were scowls or just flat out ignored. No one seemed to want to talk about their Naruto at all until they saw the Hokage and Inoichi walking down the hall. They at once tried to question them, but the Sandaime just put his hand up and made them wait as the 2 men entered the room that their boyfriend was in. It seemed like hours until they reappeared, but when they did they didn't look happy. Follow us. was all they said as they lead the girls away from the room while a guard was posted at the door to keep people out, again refusing to answer any questions. The two lead them to a room that was distanced from any other room in use and sat the girls on the two beds inside while they took a couple of the visitors' chairs and sat facing them. Inoichi was the first to speak. I'm disappointed in all of you. Though we can't blame you completely for what happened, you should have stopped well before it got as far as it did. The four young women hung their heads in shame. They weren't sure exactly what was going on, but to get scolded by the Hokage and Inoichi meant it had to be somewhat serious. Dad, what happened to Naruto-kun? Inoichi sighed as he turned to his daughter. First of all, I want to say that while I'm not surprised that you are involved in something like that already, I would prefer you not do it in our dining room. It is normal for girls your ages to get those kinds of urges, especially being kunoichi, but show some restraint. Second, I'm happy that you got over that Uchiha brat Ino, but I can't say I'm happy that you chose to share a boy instead. It's not exactly looked well upon save for a few that get the privilege of having multiple female companions for specific reasons, like the Uchiha and restoring his clan when he comes of age. Just please use protection as I doubt Naruto wants to be a father so early in life, and I don't want to see any of you ruin yours by bearing a child so young. Now, I want to know exactly what happened. The girls took turns recapping everything from the time they left the house, keeping out their pact and what they did together. The entire time neither of the men had said a word. It was unsettling to all four of them, but they pushed on with their story, hoping that they would find out some reason as to why Naruto had acted the way he did. When they were finished, Inoichi had a very stern look on his face. I'm very disappointed in all of more than before. Just like with women, when a man says, no, you are not supposed to press them. If he said it as sternly as I suspect he did, you should have backed off immediately. Now, Hokage-sama is going to tell you a little story. It's going to make you very mad and very sad. It's going to hurt you in more ways than you can imagine, but when he's finished you'll know exactly what you put Naruto through tonight. Inoichi was stern throughout the whole talk and made sure his point was understood before releasing the floor to Sarutobi. The old man was silent for a moment as he gathered his memories and thought of how to convey them without being too graphic. He sighed knowing this was going to mentally scar them for a while no matter how he tried to sugarcoat it, so he decided to just get it over with. Girls, some of you may already know, others I'm certain do not, but Naruto was beaten quite frequently in his pre-academy years and even up through the academy. Now I suspect some of the later ones he allowed to happen just to keep his guys up, but some of them were still very severe, especially when his attackers would disable him. The memories of many of those past events soared through his mind as he closed his eyes and took a deep, shaking breath to regain his composure. The action was not lost on the girls as they shifted uncomfortably from its implications as well as the information they had just learned. It was one of these assaults which happened in his earlier academy years that brings up this current issue. First, I will say that we found him 2 days after the event outside the walls of Konoha. A passing Anbu patrol found his body tucked under the root of a tree. They were lucky to have an Inuzuka amongst them who smelled the blood, there was so much blood. Again he had to stop and the girls were starting to realize just how serious this was when they noticed a tear form at the corner of the old man's eye. They brought him to the hospital and reported their findings to me. By the time I got there the doctors were already doing their typical surgery to him. You don't need to know about that, but let's just say I had to persuade them to patch him up properly and stand there to watch and make sure they did it. It was a miracle he made it through the night, but thanks to his unusual healing ability, he pulled through. There is a deep scar in his mind though from the event and it is one that will be very difficult to heal, if not impossible. Ino, your father has tried numerous methods of his, but the memory is too strong for him to block. That should give you an idea of the mental trauma. Ino gasped. For her father to not be able to help with a mental issue was unheard of. This was the first time that she could recall ever hearing of such a thing. Both her and Hinata though, began to search their memories and were surprisingly able to pinpoint when this probably happened. It wasn't strange for Naruto to be out of class for multiple days at a time then come back grinning like an idiot. They could only recall one time that he was gone for a whole week, and when he came back he was far more subdued than normal. When he had entered the classroom he didn't even shout or respond to any insults that were sent at him. He just walked to his seat and put his head down. Now I will tell you what I know of what happened from what Inoichi has told me, and my own knowledge from what Naruto was able to tell me. Warning. The following is a scene of rape and extreme violence. If you don't desire to read such a thing, scroll to the next of These spacers are used the find feature to search for. Scene end flashback Naruto had just left the academy for the day. They had started training with their kunai and he hadn't done too well, so it came as no surprise that he wasn't paying attention. As he entered the slums area of Konoha, he caught sight of movement from the alley to his right, but it was too late as the club came down and hit him over the head. He fell to the ground in a daze and couldn't do much but groan as the person, or people, he couldn't tell the number because his eyes were closed from the blood leaking down his face and the pain. He was able to make out a woman's voice though as he was dragged down the alley and into the back of a house. They went right down into the cellar of the building, not seeming to care as he bounced off each stair on the way as he mumbled in a daze. He was soon tied tightly to a low, cross-like table made of thick beams. "Let's see you get out of that, demon." As soon as the woman spoke he cringed. What do you want from me? I didn't do anything. Naruto began to sob and plead, but the woman just scoffed as she turned on a light right over him, temporarily blinding him as he tried to open his eyes. The blood from his head was already drying and threatened to seal them shut, but he forced them open again and instantly wished he hadn't. Off to the side of the table he was laying on was another table that held various tools on it. Everything from hammers and stakes to knives and pliers. "Now, first you are going to give me something, and if you do well I will give you a reward." The woman went over to the table and he was able to glimpse her features for a second, instantly knowing who she was. What she had planned for him though was still unknown to him. She picked up a knife at random and walked back over to him. She traced the knife around his face then down his shirt to his pants before stabbing into the wood by his leg. She ripped down his pants, exposing him to the room as he shivered in fear of what she might have planned. Please don't hurt me. I've been good. I don't want to hurt again." Tears rolled out of his eyes, mixing with the crust of the blood on his face and dripping to the floor. Had he been anyone else it probably could have melted the coldest of hearts. Unfortunately he was himself. "Oh, don't worry, demon. You're not going to hurt. Yet. First you're going to feel good. You should feel lucky that you're getting this treatment at such a young age." She grabbed him roughly and began to stroke. He cried out that it hurt, but she didn't listen and soon his body reacted despite her rough treatment. Not bad for a child. I suppose all demons have tools like this though. All the better to seduce women with, right? Well, don't worry. You see, I heard a story recently that bloodlines were formed when a demon came into contact with a human and the bloods mixed when they bred. So, now you and I are going to create a new bloodline together. That's right. I'm going to have your child monster. Doesn't that make you happy? His whimpering was getting louder as she began to remove pieces of her clothing. Her intentions were now all too painfully obvious to him, but despite his want to flee he was bound tightly and had no choice in the matter. When she had her bottom half exposed she straddled over him and lowered herself. She wouldn't give him the privilege of seeing her in all of her glory. Naruto tried to will the sensations away, but all he could do was cry harder when his body wouldn't listen. "Shut up, beast. You should be happy to spread your seed. Stop acting like you hate this because I'm sure I hate it a hell of a lot more than you, but to make my family strong I will bear this burden alone. Don't worry though, if I have some sort of misfit, or another demon, I will slay it so your kind doesn't infest this world." Her actions went on for hours until she was satisfied that if he could get her pregnant, then there was enough of him in her to do so. Now to make sure that no one else can get a bloodline from you, demon. She dismounted from her perch and went over to the table of tools. Then the torture began. It started with the normal things. Beating, stabbing and slicing, but then he began to find out what the other tools were for. The hammer she used to start breaking his bones since she was too weak to do it with her hands. The stakes were pounded into his joints so that he couldn't move without extreme pain. Pliers were used to break and twist his fingers, digit by digit. Through the whole ordeal he was screaming for her to stop. Pleading that she not kill him 1 minute and wishing she would the next. Finally she seemed to get tired of the mess she was making and instead pulled the knife out once more. "Don't worry, demon. I won't kill you. No, then we wouldn't be able to have any more fun with you. Instead I'm going to make it so you can't do this to anyone ever again. With that she stabbed the blade of the knife into the top of his scrotum, severing the tubes that linked the functions of his organs together and causing him to pass out as the new pain was far too much to bear. Flashback end *****. The next thing he remembered was waking up in the hospital, but it was obvious to us that much more had been done to him from when he passed out until we found him. There were numerous other deep gashes on him. Wounds meant to do the most harm possible without killing. When the Anbu first saw him, they told me, he looked less like a human and more like a mangled corpse. There were substances on him that suggested deep physical trauma to his orifices from some vile villager. Or possibly multiple. When I first saw him in his hospital bed he had been poorly cleaned and even more poorly treated. I made many threats that day, but unfortunately we don't have that large of a medical staff so I couldn't really fire them. I think some of them knew that and they still to this day try to treat him as little as possible. Honestly it's a miracle he pulled out of that event with nothing more than severe mental trauma. The Hokage would have laughed at being happy that someone had just some mental trauma if it didn't hurt so bad that he had failed in the most extreme way possible. It had only become glaringly obvious after that event. Scene end notice, the disturbing scene has ended. Sorry for anyone who was left greatly disturbed by that portion, but this is the reason Naruto won't be screwing everything that walks. For those that skipped it, Naruto was raped, and brutally tortured by a woman and possibly others as well. The first thing he did when he woke up was scream when he saw his nurse. We initially thought that she was one of the ones who had attacked him, but we soon found out that it was any woman we brought in. After we had gone through a few nurses I told them that only the male nurses and doctors were allowed to enter the room. Anbu guards were posted to make sure they obeyed after a couple other nurses went in just to make him scream. Though they didn't admit to it, they knew my order and they had no reason being in the room, so there really was no other explanation for their actions. There were less incidents when the guards were there, but we had to escort him out. I took him for ramen since it was his favorite food at the time, but I completely forgot about Ayame-chan being there. He didn't seem to mind though, and I suspect it was just because he knew her for so long. Then on the way back to his apartment we passed women of various ages. He shied away from most of them, but the younger generations he was fine with, even smiling at some. That is probably why two of you never suspected a thing. He pointed to Hinata and Ino indicating the two that would have seen him during that time. It hadn't taken long into the story before the girls had either started bawling or sat in stunned silence, and he wasn't sure how much they actually heard of it, but he got the point across he believed. He gave them time to settle down before he continued. Now, what I ask of you is to never do again what you did tonight until Naruto is ready. It may take years for him to get to that point, but if you truly love him then you must wait. Do you understand? They nodded with their heads hung low. Good. Hopefully he will be better by tomorrow and you can talk to him then, if he wants to. Do not broach this topic unless he's okay talking about it. Hokage-sama. Who was that woman? Hinata was having a hard enough time holding back her tears without talking, but she managed to get her thoughts out while spitting out her last word with a venom that surprised the two men a little. He wouldn't tell me. He wouldn't tell me her name, her features, not even which basement it was she pulled him into or the alley he was attacked from. Even Inoichi wasn't able to find out, as it seems Naruto has one of the strongest defensive minds he's ever encountered. One of the few that he has ever failed to break into. The only one who knows who that woman is Naruto. If any of you manages to get it out of him, I would be eternally grateful, as I fear he sees her from time to time, as I have seen slight relapses, even now that his mask is gone. But again I warn you, do not press the issue. I hope that what happened this evening will not happen again. At least not by your hands. The four girls nodded again solemnly. After they were dismissed they stayed in the room. He'll still love us, right, Haku-chan? I don't know Hinata. But it wasn't our fault. We didn't know. Hinata was going hysterical. She couldn't bear the though of Naruto hating her after all they'd done together, after they had finally gotten together. She curled up into a ball on the bed. I don't want him to hate me. She began to cry again as Haku moved to do her best to comfort her, but instead ended up crying as well. Ino-chan, he's had it the worst of all of us, hasn't he? Hi. We have to make it better. We have to show him that not everyone is here to hurt him. Hi. Ino laid down on the bed flat on her back and covered her eyes with her arm as she sniffed and tried to staunch the tears that were involuntarily flowing. Kin just curled up beside her and hugged her close. None of the four would leave the hospital that night. Nor the next morning as they waited for their Naruto to come back to them. The next day the four were awakened by someone making a lot of noise down the hall. I don't care what kind of condition he's in. Hokage-sama told me to come to him at my convenience. Now is my convenience, so get out of my way before I make your lives very, very painful. All four rushed out of the room and down the hall where they saw a woman in a trench coat with short, purple, pigtailed hair. They recognized her as the proctor of the second exam, Mitarashi Anko, and she didn't look happy. Now I only have about an hour before I have to get back to my duties, so you can either let me in or explain to Ibiki why I was late getting back. The woman growled out at the guards, making them shuffle a little where they stood. Sorry Anko-san, but standing orders are to not let anyone enter unless it's for treatment. Unless you have permission to specifically enter the room, then we can't let you through. The Anbu on the left of the door told her, even though she was holding the neck of his uniform and practically lifting him off the floor. She slammed him into the wall and was about to started using her skills on him when the door they were guarding cracked open. My apologies Anko-san. I will see you now, so please let the Anbu go. Anbu-san, thank you for guarding my door, again, but you may go. Give Gigi-san my thanks. No one actually saw him, but the tone of his voice, the pain in it, nearly sent the girls into tears again. They resisted the urge though as they watched while Anko dropped the Anbu and snorted at them before walking into the room and closed the door behind her. Once the Anbu left, the girls checked the door to find it locked. Resigned to their fate, they once again sat down across from the door to wait until the boy they all wanted to apologize to was ready for visitors like them. Inside, Anko turned around to find Naruto standing near the window, gazing out into the village. Hokage-sama said you wanted to look at my seal, that you might be able to do something to help with the pain. I don't believe you, or trust you, and I definitely don't have faith that a Gaki like you can do anything that could help if Hokage-sama couldn't. I will let you see it though, just to get the old man to stop nagging me, so here. She took a chair and sat down sharply before pulling her trench coat and shirt off, showing zero inhibition as she exposed her upper body to the room. As she shifted her head to the side and coughed to get the boy's attention, she was just barely able to hear some shuffling behind her. Curious, she turned to find that Naruto had turned to her and was slowly and very unsteadily walking over to her. The hell is wrong with you? Get over here, I don't have much time. She scowled at him, making him flinch before turning back around. Sorry. His voice was a lot more reserved than she remembered him being when he was out in the village or during the exams, but she ignored it as she waited impatiently for him to look at her seal. It took nearly 10 minutes for Naruto to get his courage up enough to get close to her. Then another 5 to actually look at her before he was able to see the mark. By the time he started inspecting it, he only had about half an hour before she had to leave. But once he started actually looking at it, he entered his own little world, and anything she asked he only grunted at her or didn't answer at all. Anko shivered in the chilly room as she sat topless while Naruto traced his fingers over her seal. Well, I admit that you at least act like you know how you're doing. No response. Did you know they call me the snake whore of Konoha? Still nothing. Who were those girls that looked like they wanted to charge into your room earlier? A flinch. Aha, so there is something there. Anko smiled deviously. So are they your little girlfriends, Gaki? She tried to suppress a chuckle but couldn't help herself. Please stop moving. What? Did I hit a nerve? What's the matter? Are they a little too much for you to handle? Get a little scared of them and put yourself in here to get away. The jibe stung and she knew it. She could feel it in his flinching hands, but it was her nature. The only response she got was his fingers being a little rougher. Ha, they beat you up or something. Steal your lunch money after the prelims. From the kissing I would have thought you were already enjoying them fully. The touches stopped suddenly. Get out. Oh come on. Take a joke. Get the fuck out. She turned on him expecting to put him down a peg or two, but found herself face to face with the same eyes she'd seen down in Orochimaru's lair the first time she encountered the blonde when Ibiki was with her. No. There was something else this time. She could tell he'd been seriously hurt recently, and not the type any normal weapon or jutsu could cause. Sorry. Leave. There was no kindness in his voice. Nothing to make her feel better, no forgiveness. She nodded once and left without turning back. She wasn't the type to coddle someone when they were down, just as she had never had it done to her. Not that she wouldn't have if she knew how, or that she wanted to know how. She would have been more than happy to try if that were the case, but she just didn't know how. Thus the only role she could play was that of the cold hard bitch. As soon as she opened the door she could hear the shuffling on the other side and wasn't surprised when she found 4 expectant faces staring at her when she got it open. She just shook her head at them. Whatever you did to him, it worked. Once again she realized she'd gone too far as she saw their heads drop and the Hyuga girl turn and start sobbing into one of the other girl's shoulders. She scratched her head a bit in frustration. Geez, look, try going in one at a time. If he doesn't want you in there, leave, right away. If he'll let you stay then talk to him for a little, but don't get close. If he gets close to you, let him, but he has to make the moves. Got it. They nodded, slightly confused as to why she was helping them. Listen, I may be an interrogator, but I also need to know how to get people back to awareness after interrogation. You don't know how far you can get, but you can only try and hope the person hasn't caved too far. She looked back at the closed door. Just don't get your hopes up too high because, like I said, whatever you did, worked. With that Enko left the girl standing there in shame. But it wasn't our fault. Hinata whispered into Haku's shoulder. Hinata. You go first. Her closest friend whispered to her as she pulled the girl off her shoulder. They locked eyes for a minute and Haku nodded as she turned the ex-Hyuga around and gave her a little push towards the door. No one made any objections as she disappeared into the room, and she silently thanked them for it. Inside Naruto was once again staring out the window just as he had been for his previous guest. He listened as the door opened, then closed before turning his gaze to his new guest. Hinata. His voice was dead and he looked exhausted to her. She immediately fell to her knees and bowed to the ground, crying. I'm so sorry Naruto-kun. We didn't know. A small pool of tears began to form on the floor beneath her as she kept her head to the ground, not wanting to look at his pain-filled eyes anymore. Eyes she knew she was partially to blame for being there. So you were told, I guess I should have expected it. He turned back to the window before talking again. I'm dirty Hinata, I've been abused in every way possible, left for dead so many times, ignored, and insulted. I don't blame you. Any of you for what you did to me. It just caught me unprepared. It usually only happens around adults. And I usually just get nervous. But last night I saw in the eyes of you for some of the same things that were in the eyes of that woman. And I guess I lost it. He turned back towards her. Get off the floor Hinata-chan. She looked up to see him trying to smile. It looked off, but it was clear he was trying to bury his feelings for her sake. Naruto-kun. He could see the morning sun glinting off the tears on her cheeks and it nearly broke his heart to know how worried she was. Slowly he walked over to her and stood in front of her. He smiled as best he could at her before lifting his hand and wiping her cheeks with his fingers. It was impossible for her to miss his trembling and it made her even more ashamed of her actions. The only way to make it better is to face it head on. His statement confused her as it seemed to be more to himself than to her and she stared at him with the question in her eyes until he closed his eyes and started to lean in. She was happy, but at the same time realized that he was putting himself through more pain, just to be closer to her again. She tried to move away, but he had already put his shaking arms around her and soon kissed her softly, slowly. She wasn't sure if she should lean into it, as it was more than she dreamed of ever since they had put him in here the night before. She found herself wanting his embrace even more than when she had been stalking him during their academy days. Cautiously she leaned into him, breaking the kiss as she buried her face in his shoulder and cried. I thought you would hate us. Never. You are precious to me, but please, just give me time. I'm not ready for that. Yet. At least not all at once. For now. He brushed her hair with his hand until she calmed down. Now I need to get out of here. I have things to do. We'll stop by the estate quick so I can let you girls in, but then I need some time to myself. Okay. There are some things I need to take care of. After she nodded and stepped away, he got dressed, causing her to turn around with a blush when she found out he had nothing but boxers on under the hospital gown he was wearing. When the two emerged, the girls were surprised to see Naruto coming out as well. They could tell he was still not his normal self as he only half smiled at them before walking off, leaving Hinata to wave for them to follow. They crossed town in complete silence and no words were exchanged, even after Naruto had let them into the estate, until he spoke to them. I know you all had nothing but good intentions last night, but like I told Hinata-chan, please, give me time. It was all he said to them before he disappeared into his office and emerged shortly after to head off to his, still secret, getaway. Once again leaving Hinata to tell them what they so desperately needed to know. Naruto didn't blame Anko for the way she acted. He knew it had to be part of her defenses. That still didn't make it right for her to say such things, but regardless of his feelings about the woman, he had made a promise to the Hokage to do what he could about the seal. He quickly made it to his own lair and wasted no time as he pored over their findings from Orochimaru's laboratory with his clones to aid him. It looked far too simple to be that simple. Plus the output doesn't fit with all these notes. There are far too many variables here for such a simple seal. Then there were those black marks the Tem had in the forest and that foul chakra. For the next few hours he racked his brain as he flipped through journals of experiments and went over numerous formulas. After gaining a headache from hitting too many clones at once with some books he threw in frustration, he decided it was time for a break. There was something he'd wanted to look at for a while now anyway. He fingered the gold border gently after pulling the scroll out of his pouch. He reread the name written on the outside. A name that had been stolen from him for his own protection, but at the same time one that he'd wished he had since he was born. Not because of the fame it would undoubtedly bring him, but because it was the name of his real family. Not one that abandoned him to his fate, but one that did their all to protect the place he now called home. Dad, I hope you are smiling down on me as I look into this scroll, and I pray that you and Mom will help me through the undoubtedly difficult times I'm going to be in soon. Biting his thumb he swiped the seal binding the end of the scroll and allowing it to unfurl from its silent slumber. His eyes grew wide at the information he saw. It seemed his father was as much a cataloger as he himself was, or rather the other way around. The scroll was filled with seals with various labels, but there seemed to be so few. Blank space in the scroll indicated that the man who was writing it had never finished what he wanted to put in. Or perhaps he was hoping that future generations would fill it for him. It didn't matter either way. This was his gift from his father, and he would give his all to learn its contents. With determination to make his parents proud, he moved to the first seal and the training of the next Namikaze began. Ebisu was not at all happy about his orders. The Hokage told him that he was to train one of the contenders in the Chunin exams and he was happy, until he found out who it was. He mumbled to himself as he walked through the streets on his way to the Yondaim's old house, still wondering how such a brat could have swindled it away from the Hokage. The property should have gone to someone much more worthy of it, like himself. Yes, he would be 1,000 times more worthy of a choice than that thing. By the time he got to the gate he had to admit that it was at least kept in fairly decent shape. Initially he had intended to go right up to the door, but upon trying he found the front gate locked. He looked at the wall but remembered the Hokage's warnings to not jump over. Had it been anyone else that told him he wouldn't have listened to him, but the Hokage was dead serious and he was told that if the old man found out he had tried to disobey that order that he would be having a nice chat with Ibiki or Anko. Two people that even he, an elite jonin and personal instructor to the Hokage's grandson, didn't want to meet on the wrong end of the kunai. Sighing at the lack of dignity he would be showing, Ebisu rattled the gate and called out to anyone that could hear him. To his surprise, a young girl with brunette hair showed up. She must be the one that's tending to the gardening. Maybe the rumors that the demon attacked some villagers and ninja was true and he got thrown out. He looked at the girl who seemed a little impatient for being interrupted from whatever she was doing. Ah. Hello. My name is Ebisu, and I think the person who I was looking for must not be here anymore. You were looking for Yondaime-sama. I would think that with you being a Konoha that you would have heard that he died more than 12 years ago. Ah, no, I was looking for the one who lived here after that. I guess your parents didn't tell you that there was a boy who lived here alone before you. Sir, my parents are dead. If you're not going to come out and say who you were looking for, then leave. Naruto-kun doesn't like strange people hanging out around his property. She fixed a hard glare at the stunned Jonin. Not only does that demon still violate the memory of Yondaime-sama, but now he's brainwashing girls to do his chores. Regaining himself, Ebisu stepped closer to the gate. Fine then, would you please bring your master here? I believe it is him I'm seeking after all. Naruto-kun is not our master. Haku's scowl deepened. He's our boyfriend. Now wait here and I'll get him, but if you keep up that attitude you're going to be standing out there for a long time. He once again had to shake himself out of his shock. Would it be possible to let me inside so I don't have to wait in the street? Haku didn't even bother to turn around. Only Naruto-kun has the key to the gate, and if you think of him how you sound like you think of him, then I wouldn't let you in even if I had one. Not just brainwashed, but imprisoned too. Don't worry, Hokage-sama. I'll train him. I'll train him till he dies. Ebisu's grin died as he heard the gate unlatch and the young blonde stepped out, once again locking the gate behind him. You must be Naruto-san. I am Ebisu, Jonin instructor to the elite. Hokage-sama has ordered me to teach you to better your chances in the final portion of the Chunin exams. Ebisu-san. I hope you can teach me well. Naruto bowed slightly to the man, clearly not trusting him as he kept the man in sight the entire time. It will be Ebisu-sensei from now on. How about we go inside and we will start with the basics of what you know. Ebisu moved to open the gate the boy had just come through but found it already relocked. Naruto-san, would you please unlock the gate so that we may begin your training? We won't be training here, Ebisu-san. Sensei. Pick a different spot. My property is only accessible to those I trust, and you have already put the wrong foot forward. Don't make this worse for either of us. Now pick somewhere else. I will teach you respect by the end of the day, boy. Mark my words. To his annoyance, the boy shrugged off one of his harshest teacher's glares like it was nothing. Grumbling at his loss of pride, he turned and walked off down the street with the genin at his heels. First, a little hot water torture. They arrived at the hot springs with Naruto wondering what the guy was up to. He didn't have to wait long as the sunglasses-wearing man walked right out onto the steaming water of the spring-fed stream near the hot springs. Since you have no Jonin-sensei, we'll start with some basics. This is the easiest of the chakra control exercises since, if you fall, you have a nice soft landing. It should be easy for a genin like you to figure out. Ebisu sneered at the boy. Boil alive, brat. Having no Jonin-sensei to even teach you tree climbing is just bad luck for you. Playing his part, Naruto acted like an excited genin would and ran for the stream, jumping towards his sensei. He grinned as Ebisu's eyes widened before he put his arms up to guard from the inevitable splash. When no splash came, the Jonin slowly turned where the boy should be surfacing out of the hot liquid only to find Naruto standing there with a very deadpanned look on his face. So, when are we going to get to the real training? Naruto of course smiled when he saw steam nearly coming out of the man's top. Fine. Let's try some ninjutsu. How about a kaiten, Gokaku no jutsu? The seals are horse, tiger, ram, boar, horse and tiger. Ebisu watched in anger as Naruto did the jutsu flawlessly and created a small fireball about 2 feet in diameter. He gritted his teeth. He no longer cared and decided to take the Hokage's words as a meaning to disable the boy to ensure the Uchiha would win. It was what the elders had told him would happen eventually anyway, once Sarutobi realized how strong the demon was getting. Not bad, but I will show you how it's really supposed to look. Kaiten, Gokaku no Jutsu. Before Naruto could stop him, Ebisu had already gone through the hand signs and sent his own fireball at Naruto. This one was about 10 feet in diameter and the heat made the already steaming water start to boil as it traveled towards Naruto. Suiten, Suiryuden no Jutsu. A new voice echoed and a huge dragon of water rose out of the stream, swallowing the fireball whole before crashing back to its rightful home. Both Naruto and Ebisu looked over to the nearby bath wall to see a white-haired old man crouched there looking over his shoulder at them. Would you two take it somewhere else? You're interrupting my research here. Ebisu was infuriated that he had not been able to maim the boy as he planned, and he obviously wasn't thinking straight with his next move either. You vile perverted old man. You shame us with your very presence. I Ebisu will teach you a lesson for spying on Ebisu never got a chance to finish his talk as he was flung away into a nearby rock by a long pink rope. Naruto followed the rope to find it attached to the mouth of a giant toad that the man was now standing on top of. He went over and checked his so-called sensei and frowned a bit before turning back to the man. Well, that's great. Now what am I supposed to do? I was hoping he would at least teach me something useful, but no, you had to knock him out before we could even start any real work. Kid, he was trying to kill you. You should be bowing down on your knees to me for even considering saving your ass. And who asked you to save his ass, Jiraiya? A voice spoke out from behind the man. Jiraiya spun around on his toad's head, much to the amphibian's annoyance, and came face to face with Naruto. He turned back to the one he'd been talking to just as it puffed out of existence after giving him a smile and a wave. Kage Bunshin. He smirked. Impressive kid, but you'd have to do a lot better than that if you want to be considered a real ninja, but at least you know who you're talking to, so that's a start. Well then, how about you teach me something, oh great and wise, Arrow Sennin. Naruto smirked when the man's eyes nearly popped out of his head. Like hell I would teach a kid like you. No respect at all for a legend like me. Just what is the old man teaching these brats nowadays? The Sannin turned to leave, but was once again face to face with the boy. That's really annoying, you know. He deadpanned. It's supposed to be. Tell me about your partner there, please. I've never seen a frog that big. Jiraiya and his companion both sweat dropped when they saw the stars in the kid's eyes. First of all, he's a toad and his name is Gamma. He is one of my summons, as I'm sure you know since you know my name. Jiraiya smirked as the boy inched closer. It's a pleasure to meet you, Gamma-san. My name is Uzumaki Naruto and I like toads. The two older beings laughed a little nervously, until Jiraiya realized what the kid said. You said your name is Uzumaki Naruto. Hi. Naruto looked up at the man with a big grin on his face from being so close to one of the toad summons. Ah, well maybe I will train you a bit after all, but not here. Jiraiya dismissed Gamma and began to walk away, now intrigued by who he found. So this is their kid, huh? His jutsu was pretty weak, but his chakra control seemed fine. I wonder who the kid's sensei is though. That Ebisu guy couldn't be it. Sarutobi sensei didn't say anything about the kid even passing the academy, so I wonder why he has someone like that teaching him anyway. They came to a clearing near a stream and Jiraiya took a thinking pose while he looked at the boy. After a few minutes of scrutiny he nodded his head and once again summoned Gamma. This time though Gamma had a large scroll with him. Kid, since you like toads so much I'm going to have you sign the summoning scroll for them. He took the scroll from Gamma, who dispelled himself since his job was done. Jiraiya laid the scroll out on the ground and unfurled it so Naruto could see the names. He watched as the boy read each one to himself before getting to the last one. He heard Naruto barely whisper, Namikaze Minato. As he traced his hand over the name. Well, sensei did say he idolized the Minato-kun. Guess that comes as no surprise. He crouched down on the opposite side of the scroll from the boy and pointed to the first blank spot on the scroll. Prick your finger and sign here, then put your fingerprints below just like everyone else has. Wasting no time Naruto did as he was told, and with bloody fingers as proof he sat back and looked proudly at his handiwork. So that's it. I can summon toads now. That's it. The hand seals are boar, dog, bird, monkey and ram. Just put some blood on your hand, mold your chakra, do the signs then slam your palm to the ground. Naruto was about to start but stopped and looked at the older man. What kind of toad should I summon? Well, just try to put as much chakra as you can into the jutsu and we'll go from there. Based on that fireball you put out we shouldn't have to worry about anything too noticeable. Jiraiya suddenly felt a cold shiver go down his spine. As Naruto slammed his hand down on the ground a huge plume of smoke erupted and Jiraiya's jaw dropped. Under Naruto sat a huge toad with a vest, pipe and sword that didn't look very happy at all. Jiraiya. Where the hell are you and why did you summon me? Shit, Gamabunta. Time to scram. Was the only thought going through the Sannin's mind as he ran for cover. Mr. Toad sir. I was the one that summoned you. Naruto yelled out as he jumped down to the toad's nose so it could see him. Wahahaha. Gaki, you are a century too early to summon the likes of me. A good joke though. Now tell me where that idiot Jiraiya is so I can pound him into the ground for wasting my time. Gamabunta said as he began to look around with Naruto still perched on his face. The blonde just stuck there and glared at the summon. I am the one that summoned you, and if you don't believe me, too bad. You can just go back to wherever you came from and I'll just keep summoning you until you believe me. Besides, Ero Sennin ran away when he saw you come out. Ero Sennin. Jiraiya. Wahahaha. You're a real comedian, Gaki. I like you. Whether you summoned me or not doesn't matter. Either you can or you can't, so if you really were the one to summon me, then next time at least bring me out for a good fight. That or a good drink, and when you see Ero Sennin snicker, again tell him that he lost the bet and owes me a drink. Ya nay. With that, there was another huge cloud of smoke as Naruto was sent falling to the ground. He was able to catch a few tree branches on the way down though and slow his fall by swinging and jumping between other branches until he made it to the ground, where Jiraiya soon appeared in front of him looking pissed. What the hell was that, Gaki? Never mind, he seemed a little beyond pissed. What? You summoned the boss of the Toads on your first try and ask me what? Do you have any idea how much chakra that takes? Either you were leading me and your teacher on, or you have zero talent for Kaden Jutsu if that fireball was anything to go by. What was I supposed to do in the middle of a hot springs with buildings all around? I didn't want to demolish the place, unlike that asshole that was supposedly teaching me. Unlike some people, I know restraint. Naruto huffed at being underestimated yet again while Jiraiya just stood there shocked. Just how strong are you? As strong as I need to be to protect those precious to me, and yet never strong enough to be completely sure they're safe. Such a wise phrase from someone so young that Jiraiya did the only thing he could think of. He took out a pad and pencil and started writing. What are you doing, Ero Sennin? That line you just said would be great for a book I'm writing. You're going to put my words into porn. Naruto deadpanned. Hey now. That's fine literature, I'll have you know, and the top seller in the elemental nations. I have fans that line up at bookstores whenever a new volume comes out. Jiraiya said with a beaming smile and a thumbs up. It's still porn. Whatever. Feel like teaching me some more, Ero Sennin? You're never going to stop calling me that, are you? Just like that brat minimum. Anyway. Jiraiya considered the boy. What do you know about the Yondaim's technique, the Rasengan? I will not be going into the training Naruto had with Jiraiya. The Rasengan itself would take a rather long time for him to learn without the pressure of Tsunade's bet, so it was basically his normal training that he's been doing along with working on the Rasengan. This also means the finals are next. Thanks for those who are understanding of this. Thanks for listening. I hope you guys liked it. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like for more what ifs and support the author. See you guys in the next video.